So this coming June, we will have been in this building for 10 years. A decade. So it was about 10 years ago, almost exactly, that there was a hole right in the middle of the floor where Penny, Betsy, and Maggie and Stuart are sitting. And there was a big conveyor belt that went from right where the middle of the sanctuary down to the basement where they are now putting together gift bags. And it was full of books. And this, where I'm standing right now, where the choir is, was a boardroom. And that beautiful meditation room back there was the bank vault from the credit union. And our garden over here was the drive-through for the credit union that was here before the library purchased it. So we've had some change and transformation over the years. If any of you were here for that saw the building initially 10 years ago, will you raise your hand? So there were a number of us here 10 years ago thinking, wow. And I think we all probably walked in a little bit different. Like I walked in to the space for the first time and I was thinking, yeah, whatever, this is not gonna happen. And yet we had other people. We had Gary Pausch and we had Joel and we had so many, and Floyd and so many people that walked into the space and they saw something else. They saw a way to manifest a vision of what we collectively as a group had a vision of who we could be in this valley. And that vision for many years was we kind of need our own space, our own location, so that we can live into who we are wanting to be. And so we walked into this space the way I just described, and I was thinking, I don't know how this vision of who we're meant to be in this valley is going to be manifested in this building with a big hole in the middle of the floor. And yet we had a number of people that saw something else, that had this vision of, well, we fix the hole and we tear these walls out and we move that wall that way and we turn this into a garden and we turn that into a meditation room and we paint the walls. And we can do this. We can transform this into something beautiful and loving and magnificent. And I didn't see it because that's not my skill set. I'm not a visual person. For those of you who don't know me, a few years ago, we had a Christmas tree up here for like 3 weeks when Sherry said, "Do you like the tree?" And I was like, "Oh, we have a tree." So I couldn't see it. I knew who we wanted to be in the valley, but I couldn't see or vision how to change the space. And we came together collectively back then with that collection of our gifts and our talents, our time, talent, and treasure, to say this is who we can be in the world. At that time, I don't think it's part of our mission anymore, but we defined ourselves as a liberal oasis in the Grand Valley. We're not a liberal oasis anymore. We are an active part of this community. We're known as leaders in this community. and it's a real honor. Many of you have probably not ever met my son Nathaniel, who is 17. Some of you have, but he's almost 18, and he actively rebels against going to church. And for those of you that were here that raised your hand back 10 years ago, probably the last time you actually saw him in church was when he was about 7, and he came running upstairs screaming in the middle of my sermon. And at that time, I decided to pick my battles, and having a screaming 7-year-old fighting against wanting to be here. So he does his own thing. But this was kind of funny. Last year, he was part of a community movement to save the Orchard Mesa community pool. And they were going through a training session on how to be active citizens. And in this workshop, the students were asked to list people or organizations who have power in the community or who they might partner with. And one of the people there named the UU Church, in which Nathaniel had to sheepishly admit he might have some connection with the minister there. So somehow Nathaniel grew up being a UU without ever knowing it or acknowledging it. But I didn't point that out to him. But it is an honor to know that we are known in this valley as an organization who cares, who stands up and who shows up when things matter. That's an honor. And that happened and continues to happen because of the vision that so many people had not 10 years ago or 12 years ago, but probably at this point, at least 50 years ago, right? Right, Peg? At least 50 years ago. There was a vision for what it could be to be a Unitarian Universalist congregation. And for the last 10 years, we've been in this building, but the vision and the dreams and the planning and the hard work started well before what we see here today. And my hope is that it will continue well beyond what we see here today, because we continue to vision and plan and work together and create the community that we want to be. And so in 10 years, hopefully many of us in this room will still be here, but probably in 10 years, not all of us will be here, but there will be new people who have come and have brought their own dreams and their own vision and their own hope and their own time, talent, and treasure to continue the vision and the dream of who and what this little faith community can and should be. And that's what I think is just so beautiful. A few weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, I talked about transformation and how things can transform quickly or they can transform slowly, brick by brick. And it's the same concept. We could say it's congregant by congregant, right? Every time we have a new person, a new face come in and look around and think, is this something that I can be a part of? You help transform it. You help us become who we're meant to be. And you bring your own hopes and your own vision and your own time and your own talent, and we're better for it. And if you think about it, every one of us, me included, walked into this congregation, this faith community, for the first time once. It wasn't everybody, it wasn't here in this space, but for many of us here today, the first time you walked in was this space. But Peg and Lance walked somewhere, almost 50 years ago into a group, and Jane, you were here years before I was, and then here you are again. It's really beautiful. And so as we are entering into this stewardship campaign, for those of you that don't use religious language, stewardship is really the financial health of the church. And every spring, what we do is a stewardship campaign, which basically is inviting people to think about what they would like to pledge. And a pledge in religious language is thinking about how you might be able to financially help support the congregation for the upcoming year, and it helps the finance team create a budget. And so we do this every year, but over the years, I used to be scared to talk about money, but now it's one of my favorite sermons because it's not about money. What and who we are as a faith community is not about money. It's like I said, it's about all of us coming together, sharing our gifts and our talents and our joys and our vision and our hope and our mission for who we want to be in the world. And part of that is treasure, money, finances, because that's the way that the world works. But we always, every Sunday, we talk about time, talent, and treasure, because we are who we are in this room today, in this valley, because of the time and the talents and the gifts that each one of you contribute. Each one of us is so, so important. And I remember a few years ago, there was a person who, during coffee hour, during one of these stewardship sermons, she said, I don't have a lot to contribute. And I looked at her genuinely surprised, because I said, but you're here every Sunday. Just your presence, just showing up, just being who you are in the midst of us is everything. And I mean that for every person here in this room. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. And thank you for being willing to share who you are, because that is what makes us a thriving community. If it was only up to me to have the vision for what this could be, we would still have a hole in that floor right now. And we wouldn't have a sound system, because John Mayo, a sound engineer, knows how to, we have so much wiring that we don't even tap into, I don't think, because not all of us understand the brilliance of what John understood. And John, if you're there right now, we love your sound system, because he had the forethought, he had the vision, he had the talent to have the wiring so that we can have these speakers and these microphones. And we have people like Mike who know how to make beautiful documentaries and videos, which allows us to team up with people like Barb, who have the passion to go to other parts of the world to try to help children regardless of where they are. And then that teamed up with Sandy, who had a vision to say, let's put together a fundraiser in which every person here probably, or many of us, came together to support that fundraiser, and we made $12,000 to send back to Gaza. But we have a video that can now be on our website that we can send all over the world to show what's happening. That's beautiful. And that's not one person. And that's not just a few people. That's all of us coming together with a vision. And that was one vision for one fundraiser. And yet we will have more. And that's what's, on Friday, we have Linda Stout, who put together this beautiful documentary, Women Are the Change, that we showed about 10 years ago, about women all over the world who have created their own businesses, are lifting themselves out of poverty because they have a dream and a vision. And we have Linda, who helped put that together. We have Maya, who's creating the film series, and we have all of us who are going to show up to support that and be inspired and also become part of that change. And it goes on and on. And for many years with the stewardship campaign, for the last few years since 2020, we talked about mutual aid and the concept that Jacob Richards had when he called right when everything shut down in March of 2020, and he said, can we use a few tables in your parking lot so that people can bring what they need and bring what they have and take what they need. It started as a Facebook page called Grand Junction Mutual Aid. It grew as 3 tables, and then there was a vision. Somebody named Stephania was inspired by what Jacob was doing, and it turned into this amazing thing that has now grown so large. It's no longer in our parking lot because there is a full-on resource center there now that the city created because the need was so big. But that started as an idea, as a Facebook group that turned into a few tables, that turned into a movement because of people in this very room coming together with an idea. And so when I think about where we've been, when I think about where we're going, I get excited. And I don't know where it's going to lead us because we haven't even met some of our new best friends and some of our new most active congregants yet because they haven't walked through that parking lot, through these doors yet. But we're here. And so my invitation for all of us today, as we move into this stewardship campaign, thinking about who we want to be in the upcoming year, what we want to contribute, the invitation is for each and every one of us to take a little bit of time and ask ourselves the question, let's just do this now. Let's just take a moment, let's close your eyes and ask yourself, what is it that makes my heart sing? What would I love to do to contribute to this community that the idea of it brings me a sense of joy? I counted, we have about 60 people in this room, and we may have 60 different ideas. But my hope is that each one of us has a little spark of joy in your heart. And the idea, to me, a true faith community is where we get to come together and share those little sparks of joy. And then when we share them, if we get honest with ourselves, and then we share them with 1 or 2 other people, those sparks can become a collaboration or a movement or an event that does change this valley and then maybe even changes the world. And it starts right here in this little sanctuary that used to have a hole in the floor. But there were people with big hearts and big visions who said, we can and will be so much more. And so that is my invitation, my hope for the next month as we think about that. What brings joy and sparks hope? And then we get to name that and then maybe say yes to each other and say, let's make it happen. And my hope is that then this conversation goes beyond just this stewardship campaign as we go into the next decade of who we are meant to be in this valley, because there is work to do. Our voices are needed, our actions are needed, our community is needed, and we need each other. So let's do it together. Let us sing together number 1028, The Fire of Commitments.
Let's rise in body or spirit.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitments. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.